Hello people and welcome to another Carcassonne analysis video. Today we will be taking a look at a game I had with WizardChess, also known as Andrew Naylor, who is the 2023 USA National Champion, who I also had a pleasure to play at the World Championships this year. Now this game is not the one, of course, that I played against Andrew in the championships, because the games were live and there is no material of it, except for a few featured games that were shown on the official stream. Nonetheless, I found this game to be a very interesting one, and I reckon many of you can learn something from it. So let's begin, shall we? This first move is already something that I do not agree with. It doesn't matter what tile you get as your first tile of the game. You should always take the feature that you can with it and meeple it. It doesn't matter if it is a city cap or any other city tile, a road or a monastery, as long as you do not meeple a field. Some exceptions can be made with splitter tiles or tube dividers, but even then I generally try to keep away from very early farmers, because you really can't know how they are going to turn out. We, on the other hand, get a great tile. We get to clear off the city cap, and we get even a shielded tile, so of course we are going to meeple it. Now yet again, for the second time, Andrew decides not to meeple any feature, which I think is a complete mistake. I would encourage people to be more aggressive with meepling stuff, especially at the beginning of the game. Being too passive will most likely never work out. Also, the placement of his straight road protects indirectly my castle from any possible attacks. So the only one who benefited from this straight road was me. Of course, we are going to be very happy about it, but I would not place too much trust on getting helped by my opponents every game. So we immediately get a starting tile and get to finish our castle, get ourselves easy 8 points. They start a new castle. We don't really have a great placement for this extender. If we place it here, it can quite easily get trapped, and if we place it here, it serves very little purpose, because first of all we want to have a platform to harass Andrew's castle, and if they complete their castle immediately, we might have just gotten ourselves trapped very easily. They do complete their castle. Worthwhile to mention that this was already the third starting tile, or second if you do not count the very first base tile, but I always count that in, so I always count that there are 4 starting tiles in the game. We do not really have a great use for this tube divider. We only have 2 legal moves, and placing it here will more likely get us trapped almost immediately with our castle. So this is the only move that I would ever be considering, and we do this without a meeple, because we already need city tiles with roads to our previous castle. Now we could potentially drop a farmer here, but since 3 starting tiles are already out, it means that one of the two city caps can almost immediately be blocked, and for the second one we would need to wait for quite a long time, possibly, because we need city caps with roads to different places at the moment. They start a monastery next to our castle. We do not need to rush with the completion of our castle anymore, since Andrew's monastery is tied to our castle, and if he wants to block this square, then so be it. So we will start another castle. They start a farm. We could potentially start yet another castle over here, and then we would have use for both city caps with a road and for city caps with a field. But since they have the opportunity to just dump a straight road or whatever here, then that means that we would have dual pressure on both of our castles, and that's not really ideal, which is why we just continue the castle over here. We probably should meeple this 2-point road just so that our opponent cannot get an easy 4-point road, but since completing it would require extending our opponent's field, I am less inclined to do that. They cannot take quick points, so they still continue harassing our castle, which I think is a mistake with this tile, because now what they have created, since they do not meeple it either, they have created 3 road ends, from which 2 work in our favor, because we can grab a triple city with a road and get 6 points, or 5, because it would also give a point to Andrew's monastery, and then we could start a ruin, and afterwards we would have a variety of ways to continue our castle. Maybe make it a ruin, or maybe complete it with triangles and the city crossroad. But in any case, we would be getting a 4-point road basically for free, or if we get a city crossroad, we can just use it here instead to complete our castle and get an additional 2 points. Because the completion of our second castle is not so important anymore now that Andrew has a monastery tied to it. With this crossroad, however, we cannot really take points because we cannot go here, as that would endanger our castle. So we start a loop, and we start it here partially because it is the only loop that we can start that requires only 1 tile to complete, and partially because we want to control this square so that our opponent will not make any disastrous attempts in setting up nasty blocks. Andrew makes a good move. They create few more possible cities onto their field. What makes this move particularly strong is that we cannot truly benefit from these empty cities, because we already need the tiles required to complete these cities elsewhere. Since we do not want to make any extra castles to our opponent's field, we are going to instead indirectly continue our castle and use the other city cap to start a new city so that we can make use of city tiles with field. They are setting up for a block. We do get a fantastic saving tile, and we of course meeple this monastery. There are still all 3 daggers with the left curve. There are all 3 city crossroads, and there are also still 2 road triangles. And all of those 8 tiles work fantastically in here. They correctly start to infiltrate our castle. And here I thought about this move for a long time. We only have 2 meeples. This city can be directed here, and at the same time it will tie both my city meeple and my monastery meeple to the 2 remaining road triangles, and it will also restrict my road. In the worst case scenario, they do it with a triple city, and so then I would be needing road triangles basically everywhere. Here, 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 or even here. And it would create a very unpleasant situation for me. But given that if they direct this piece of city to here, and they can then attack with another meeple and even eventually take over the whole city, I just cannot let that happen. So even though it is unpleasant, I will attack this castle with a second meeple. Now there is only 1 road triangle remaining. And fortunately for us, they take the 9 points. Even though 9 points is a lot for 1 move, I think this would have been just devastating, because it would then restrict not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 4 of my meeples at the same time. And 3 of them would be waiting for the final road triangle, and the 4th one would be restricted to a crossroad, which there are still 6 remaining, so that wouldn't be the worst. But given that I would be in a meeple disadvantage for likely very long time, it would not be great at all. We cannot really take a road here, since first of all we only have 1 meeple, and soon several of our meeples can be tied to 1 single tile, and the completion of this monastery is no longer a priority. Our priority should now be restricting this square to either a dagger or to a city crossroad. The last thing we want is this square to be restricted to the final road triangle. They are looking to complete the block on this castle. Luckily for us, we get a fantastic tile, dare I say the best tile for this situation, a triple city with a road and a shielded one. So we get 6 points with this move, 4 from the road, 3 added directly to our castle, and 1 given to our opponent's monastery. And we are also setting up to have a nice ruin in case we never get a city crossroad to complete this castle. Now luckily our opponent helps us yet again. They add 1 point to what is most likely going to be a shared feature. They add 1 point to my monastery. They make it very easy for me to complete my road with a curve or a crossroad or even a dagger, although that is unlikely. And they restrict my monastery and my castle to the dagger, and there are still all 3 daggers with the left curve remaining. So this is fantastic news for me. We complete our castle and start a new one. They are now going to restrict our road a bit. I do not really care if this road gets restricted, because it cannot be blocked fully with any tile. There are still 2 field crossroads, 6 regular curves, and all 3 daggers. So instead we continue our castle, take another 3 points. They make a rather good move and use the final road triangle to tie 2 of our meeples to this castle. There is still 1 splitter, but it is very unlikely that we would be getting it before this square would be blocked, which means that we are going to join our 2 meeples to this castle immediately, and we turn the triple city this way so that they cannot set up a full block and restrict our open city piece. They have now also restricted our castle to the same dagger that we already need here, so it is somewhat unlikely that this castle would ever be completed, even though there are all 3 remaining. But since we also need a city crossroad there, and God knows what is coming to this square to harass our city, at this point I just accept that this castle will most likely end up being a ruin with 2 of my meeples in it. They start another monastery. Although these 2 monasteries now have 1 shared square instead of 2, the placement, in my opinion, is absolutely correct, because 3 starting tiles are out, so there is only 1 left in the deck, and it would be rather simple to block both of the monasteries, even though there are 8 tiles that we can do it with: a triple city with a road, all daggers with the left curve, and all city crossroads. And although we need the daggers already to multiple places and would thus not be completing the block with those tiles, in the worst case scenario we can always get just the triple city with a road on our next turn and just complete the block. We complete our road. They are preparing to set another block here, since all road triangles are out and only 1 triple city with a road remains. We do a spatial move and restrict Andrew's field so that there are no field squares to start new castles from. And this is exactly the reason. Now they cannot start a new castle on their field, at least directly. What they can do is start a new field here. They can also get the city crossroad themselves and unify these 2 fields. We clean off a city cap. We could alternatively add this city cap over here, but since we already need the daggers to multiple places and this square is not completely safe, it can still be blocked, I value clearing off a city cap more than possible completion of my castle. They set up a blocking platform. With the quad crossroad we can neither prevent this block nor can we score any quick points, so we are going to place it here to try and block the blocking square. They restrict our monastery. we complete the connection to his castle. Even though this move is really worth 0 points, because I get 2 points by joining to his castle and 1 point for my monastery, this castle is completed on his field and therefore grants him 3 points. But a worse situation would be if he got the one remaining splitter and gets to place it here. That would essentially be 2 castles on his field, with the assumption that we get a dagger and we complete our castle. And also he would be able to drop another farmer, which would already be worth 6 points. They get one of our daggers, start a new castle with it, and also prevent our ruin from being expanded anymore. We don't really have any great uses for this tile, so we are going to just set up a platform to possibly harass this 1 point castle. They add 1 point to their monastery and create yet another monastery spot. We cannot really benefit from that monastery spot ourselves, because it would surround 2 of his monasteries. So if we get a monastery ourselves, we are likely going to be just placing it here or here to either try blocking his monasteries or try connecting to his field. But this is no monastery tile, we start another castle. They do immediately get yet another juicy monastery, which they of course meeple. We try to further restrict the blocking both our monastery and our castle, and take 2 points in the process, which unfortunately our efforts go in vain as everything gets blocked. We take away a city cap from his field and take 2 points. Here I am actually very surprised that he just dumps a city cap to his field while just adding 1 point to his monastery, since he already has a city brewing, which I think he should complete before dumping any city caps on his field without meepling. We clear off this cap. They take 2 points, although not from an ideal spot, because now they have endangered their own castle even further, and they have also created a 3-point road up for grabs. A better place would have been here, taking 2 points, and then with large city tiles even have possibility of blocking this meeple if anything else is not available. Given that there are still 5 city caps remaining, 2 city crossroads and 3 city caps with a field, we are going to restrict his castle a bit. We do offer him a free 3-point road if he gets a city crossroad, but he would have a great use for city crossroad anyway over here, unifying his fields and getting a monastery meeple back, whilst meepling a 4-point road, since there are still few crossroads remaining. They get 4 points from the city cap we just gave. We did not meeple this because, given that there are 5 city caps remaining, I do not like to have two open cities that are worth 1 point. It has happened too often that I have started a new city with a city cap at the almost end of the game, and then I have just not gotten any of the remaining city caps, and I have just had two 1 point cities at the end of the game, which score exactly 2 points for 2 meeples, which of course is extremely bad. Also, as a side note, there is now only 1 dagger remaining here. We are going to block Andrew's castle. All triple cities with a road and all road triangles are gone. So now he cannot use city crossroads here. They add 2 points to their monasteries. We take 2 points and clear off a spot for a regular curve. This move doesn't really achieve anything since the meeple is already blocked. A better move, I think, would have been here, just adding 1 point to this road and readying yourself to get a city crossroad, getting your meeple back from the monastery and meepling this road. Since there is splitter still remaining, we do want to block this square and prevent Andrew from getting 2 meeples back in hand. They take 2 points. Possibly an alternative move would have been to place the city crossroad here and pre-complete this castle, but given the plentiful amount of regular curves remaining, it would have likely been blocked in any case. But a third move, which I think would still have been a lot better than what he did, was to place the city crossroad here, unify the fields, get a meeple back, and meeple a 4-point road. It would also prevent me quite efficiently from having any ideas of attacking his fields, because if he has 1 large field with 2 meeples and I have 2 meeples in hand, which I would have to use both to attack the field with no guarantees on actually getting to the field, it would quite effectively secure the field in its entirety. We block the monasteries and they try to harass our city meeple. Now, since we are running out of tiles, this is the time we do some point counting. We are 14 points ahead on the scoreboard. We have 7 points on the monastery, 4 points on the city, 12 points on the ruin, 1 point on this city. All that will put us to plus 38. They have 3 monasteries worth 24 points, a 1 point city meeple, and 2 fields worth 9 points each. So we are at -5. And because there is still 1 city crossroad remaining, we cannot rely on attacking either farm on its own, because they can be unified. So, given that there are still few large city tiles remaining, we are going to start another ruin and hope to get few large city tiles. They restrict our castle. There is now only 1 city cap that goes here, that being the final dagger. We don't really have a great use for the curves anymore, although this curve should have potentially been used here to create an attacking spot to the field in case we get the city crossroad. they are just going to dump this large city tile. And now we had the realization that we should have had on our previous move, so we do exactly that. We could still get the city crossroad and then a dagger to get 9 points, but it is not really even worth to attack this field anymore, because if we get the city crossroad, we might as well take 4 points over here and prepare a 6-point field if we get the dagger. Andrew eliminates the field connection opportunity. Since we cannot attack the field anymore, our move is pretty clear. We take 4 points. They take a 3-point ruin. It wasn't the best move, however, since the remaining tiles are the dagger and the simple curve. So if they get the curve, they cannot add any points to themselves, whereas if they had a meeple, they could take 4 points over here instead of the 3 points that they took for the castle. And if they get the dagger, they can actually take 5 points from this ruin. So their final meeple was a bit rushed. We take a 4-point road, there is nothing better that we can do, and they do get the final dagger as well, so they add 1 point to their castle. We managed to win the game by 3 points, but this result is less because of some miraculous plays and more because of multiple minor inaccuracies and small mistakes that our opponent did pretty much throughout the entirety of the game. So in the beginning, not meepling features aggressively, taking 2 points when they could have taken 4 with a city crossroad at the end of the game, and the rushed final meeple. They all stack up. They stack up pretty quickly. 2 points lost here, 2 points lost here, and well, of course, given that the whole game could have been very different had Andrew taken roads in the beginning, and we would not have been able to complete our initial castles, etc., etc. This game still goes to show that even the national champions still make quite a many mistakes that can aid you to win, even though you would not be making any miraculous moves yourself. Thank you for watching this analysis, especially if you watched it from the very beginning to the end. Do let me know your thoughts about this video, and I will see you in the next one.